This is Kevin Van Trump. I'm here with my good friend Carter Williams for another Farm Tank edition of your Outsourced Ag CTO, trying to touch base on some of the latest ag technologies and things that are going to maybe upset our industry or be disruptive in nature. And we got some special guests on this week from Harpe Bio. So Carter, how things been in your neck of the woods? Where you at today?
Hey, Guy, good. I've been spending a lot of time. I was over at Benson Hill a bit over the last couple of weeks looking at some of their activity, and we just got through K1 season, so the tax man has distracted us from innovation.
But in all seriousness on that, I mean, because I know I'm heavily invested. I know a lot of listeners are heavily invested in Benson. I know you and I have touched base. I don't want to go a deep dive on it, but what the hell are we thinking here? I know a lot of people after Investor Day, some bigger investors opted to put more money in. Are you hearing the same thing? Or
yeah, I think this is we're back to the 2000s a little bit in stock, where the original investors have a lot of insight. This is true with Benson Hill and many other companies where Benson Hill is a computational biologics type company, or computational biology company. It has a lot of compute. It spends a lot of money each year on AWS on compute. Not many people catch on to that stuff. And so the original investors understand where it's going and are very long it. But when you go to the public markets, if you go back to like 2000, nobody really understood what Amazon was doing or what Google was doing. Not like we understand it today. And it frankly takes a little while for the public markets to catch on to the things we know. And so I think that there's a lot of strong support of some of these companies in terms of the original investors, but part of our job is to attract new investors. I think agriculture understands the challenges in agriculture better than people in Wall Street. And so there's a question whether there's an arbitrage there. But lack of understanding has a lot to do in the equation of whether there's an arbitrage.
I still feel like there's two main things just in the common sense way to play it on Wall Street. I feel like number one, they're lumping Benson Hill in with fake meat, plant-based, the whole Impossible Beyond story. Yes, Benson was attached to that early because they were the producers of some of the ingredients or helping to produce the seed. But it seems like we've been lumped in with that as well as the whole SPAC debacle. And everybody's been on a witch hunt, just annihilating these SPACs that came out early. Yeah, I mean, shit, it's so I don't know if they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, but I feel like, yes, I'm with you. I think we're more an agricultural tech type company with Benson. And maybe if that story shifts or changes from the narrative of being associated with plant-based or being associated with just SPACs in general, I think those have been two big negative headwinds. And hopefully that rhetoric changes sooner rather than later. I know I added a little bit more for full disclosure. I think I added actually a little bit more the day we dropped a little buck, but I guess we'll see how things play out. And I'm a long-term player, long-term investor, so I'm not trading it short-term. So
yeah, I was reminded, I did this calculation recently. I think that and some people may remember when Bill Gates back in 1995, when Windows 95 was coming out and Windows was sort of making its big shift to the internet. So not many people remember this, but like in 1995, Microsoft just like flipped the switch and said, we're going to go full in on the internet. It was around when Windows 95 was coming out, and he was on, if you go and look at it, you can see him explaining to David Letterman on the David Letterman show what was going on. Since that time frame that you invested I think $1,000 in Microsoft, it would be worth $89,000 today.
oh, yeah.
In a similar way, I think I calculated, I think this was the number for Amazon. Amazon beat the S&P in year 12 of it post IPO, and it was 100x return, I think, in year 24. 100x return, so well above the index. And so it's sort of, I don't know how to change my investment strategy for that, but there's a lot of these things take a while.
Oh, yeah.
Today's computer was in the 80s making computer chips faster, in the 90s getting the internet to work, in the 2000s getting mobile to work, and then we started getting really new business models. And there's a lot of reason in agriculture for agriculture to take market share from healthcare. There's no reason for we can with agriculture we can solve diabetes. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. We're investing with the idea that over the next 15 years it's going to happen.
But just like your article you put out on Pepsi this week, wanting to make the switch or the change to try and, from their stack-based business to everything else to try and become a little bit more healthier on the food front. So,
yeah, it's sort of it's a little bit like Microsoft saying we're going to go into the internet.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be healthy now. I don't know what the over under. I think Pepsi. What did they say? They were going to like cut back the salt. We have an investment in a company named Banumos. Banumos is an alternate sugar that's 1/10 the glycemic index, which means it's 1/10 more like as likely to cause diabetes. It's not exactly true, but it's sort of what it means. And so if we can advance those ingredients, then somebody like Pepsi adopts it into their products, they can deliver a food that still tastes really good, and maybe you then eat too many potato chips, but we're going to start seeing changes in ingredients. Well, we are seeing this. We are seeing in companies. We got a company, Brightseed, Banumos, that the ingredients are changing. Benson Hill. What does Benson Hill do? They make a higher quality protein that's easier to produce and can go into Beyond Burger. What did Beyond Burger get wrong? Everybody thought Beyond Burger was going to be a new CPG and have brand power and really just plant-based burger. And so its value error was not do people want plant-based food. Its value error was it's not a new CPG. So why you get beat up on protein, folks? The other one that's come up there that is different in agriculture is you're either going to build meal out of that soy or you're going to make oil and make soy diesel. And we got like this, I don't know if you know, maybe you can answer this for me. I was talking to Nimex the other day. Soy diesel will always be too expensive, but maybe it won't, or maybe it goes in the fuel mix. But which way of those markets is the US going to become the soy diesel producer of the world, and everybody's soy is going to go to that, and all the meals going to be commodity, or is it going to be commodity a premium meal?
Well, it's always been in the past, when we traded beans at the board, and in years past, bean oil was just a byproduct simply of the crush, and all the money was made in the meal side of things. Well, that's probably everyone's banking. That may soon change, and you may have, where the oil becomes what they're crushing for, and the meal becomes a byproduct, which would hurt and impact DDGs and hurt some of the other things. It's interesting to try and understand how that all plays out, especially if you look at livestock, and will our livestock numbers expand with plant-based meat, fake meat? It's tough for me. And with more highly contagious pathogens of like African swine fever, bird flu, how is all that going to play out into the livestock as we move forward?
In terms of that,
are we going to be able to increase the herd? So I'm basically right now, I'm long copper, I'm long cattle. I think there's a longer term story here in the cattle, at least nearby. As we move forward, it's going to be tough to increase the herd anytime real soon from our perspective. So, I don't know. I was on a call this week, some people trying to get me to invest in a new processing equipment for ethanol, which would increase the protein levels of the DDGs. and really allow more corn oil, which is kind of the gold on the corn side, more corn oil to come out of the mix. And it's interesting. I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't, like I said, there's so many different moving pieces on the livestock, all the new crush facilities on the meal side, or I should say the bean side, and what they're trying to do with some of the new corn things on the ethanol side. So, I mean, all that, you know, it's just crazy to me, and it'll be interesting to see how the new technology shifts or changes some of that in what capacity it happens. So,
Yeah, our general forecast, going back to your comment about alt meats, our general forecast is if in the United States we change one meal a week to plant-based, it's a 1,500% increase in demand for plant-based protein in the US. And so the way we sort of think about this is, you know, there'll be a shift in the direction. The other thing is Benson is actually, it's another thing Benson is doing is they're coming up with a soy flake that gets intermixed in with beef. It actually tastes pretty good. It actually tastes mediocre beef. They put in 20% soy. It actually enhances the taste. It makes it twice as healthy or half as much saturated fat, and it's 20% cheaper. So if you're thinking about like school lunch program or McDonald's, there are opportunities to sort of actually enhance the quality a little bit and have more of a hybrid where you've got some soy in there and mostly meat. So those kind of markets may merge, but our general viewpoint is the whole world's not going to go to plant-based meat. There's going to be we're still carnivores. There's going to be some combination of the two, and
yeah.
just make
one of the reasons, I know we discuss it a lot in the trading world. I mean, to have a really good big bull market, you need really three things. You need the funds to have some semblance that they want to be long the market for an extended period. You need a good demand story, and then you need some type of supply side issue. So you got three cylinders if you look at it from an engine standpoint, and you need all three. If you get all three cylinders firing at the same time, you get a massive bull market. And so we're looking at cattle and we're looking at copper, at least from my perspective. If we're going to go green and we're going to press this climate thing to the max, which it looks like we're going to do and the world's going to do, you got to believe you're going to have at some point, if we get past the global recession, you're going to have a major expansion into clean space with automotives or whatever it may be. So copper, when you come out of a recession and into or out of the recession, the funds typically from back when I was trading in the 90s all the way through, they like to get long copper because copper is kind of Dr. Copper. It predicts an economic boom. It's what, you know, if you see housing expansion or, you know, commercial building, it's usually led from the copper increase in copper demand. But with the new EVs and everything, the copper demand's off the chain. So you're really you're not going to be able to meet demand for probably some time. And then if you start to get into opening mines and those types of things, you get that pressure as well. We're interested in the cattle space and the livestock space. It's going to be difficult to expand the herd just because if they're going to pressure clean energy and climate change, that there's going to be a lot of regulations and rules and more that make it more and more difficult and more expensive to expand your livestock herd. So we say, you know, the supply is probably going to be, you know, it's going to be limited. I think demand will remain, like Carter's saying. I don't think the plant-based is going to devastate demand to that much of a degree, but I think your supply side will be restrained and you could have nice fund interest in the space as well. So,
yeah,
you know, those are just kind of mistakes as this clean energy tries to play out. You got to kind of think several dominoes there. So
I was talking to an investor who has a lot of exposure to rural infrastructure, and they were wondering whether they need to pay attention to EV power generation in rural, meaning if more farm equipment's going to go electric, do they need to change power distribution in the rural areas to support that, which is interesting. That's the other one of the other.
I'll tell you what, Carter, we're seeing a shitload more acres go to lease to solar. I mean, I'm telling you, in the last couple of years, even. I mean,
yeah,
I think you're going to see a lot more farms, you know, maybe turn that over. And you're seeing more Microsoft, Amazon, some of those people put their strategic, I guess if data is the new oil or gold, so to speak, they're trying to locate some of those centers across the Midwest, and they're buying some huge farms and, barbed wiring around them and putting their infrastructure, I guess, housing their data and their computers in the middle of the US rather than on the coast. I don't know. But we've had some farmers report to us that they've sold huge chunks of farms from Wisconsin all the way down past Missouri into Arkansas. So it'd be interesting to see how much land's actually gobbled up from solar, like you're saying. And they're going to do more electrical type plays, EV things out on the farms. That'd be pretty interesting. So
You want to hop into Harp?
yeah, heck yeah. Let's welcome our guest on. I'm gonna turn it over to Carter. We're gonna kind of get this going. We're gonna hear a little bit about what Harpe Bio has going on. I know a lot of, Carter just told me, informed me, a lot of my friends and some big producers and farmers across the US are already early investors in Harpe and seem to be on the bandwagon, understanding a lot about what they have going on. And I've it probably slipped through the cracks, or somehow I missed it, Daniel. And
They left you out.
They left me out. I'm usually getting calls every week, many calls for to throw some money at some different things. But I'm excited to hear what you guys got going as well, because some of the people you named, yeah, the guys I go out with and go to some sporting events and things like that. So yeah, it's interesting. I know I've heard the name and I've heard about your business. I just haven't heard the specifics from you guys. So
yeah, so just for full disclosure, AgSwag is an investor in Harp. It was actually fascinating the degree to which other people in agribusiness and farmers were early investors in Harp, and that there was a lot of energy behind it. But Daniel, you want to just, I don't know if Daniel or Chad's gonna do this, but like just give us what Harp is up to and what you're doing on the herbicide side, and just give us that basic intro.
Sure, and I think the reason why we were able to raise money and do it with the people we did, including several farmers, folks in industry, was because of the need and what we're doing, and that's we're developing bio-based herbicides, so natural herbicides. We're using plant extracts, so the compounds found in there, and when they are formulated, they become herbicidally active. So we're looking at things that are chemistry. It's just we're taking chemistry compounds from nature and creating new herbicides. These herbicides are being able to be formulated for pre-emergence, post-burn down use, desiccation, and in the future, and we're already working on it with the partner in Solus Agrisciences in developing the herbicide tolerance components so that in the future be able to spray crops, not kill them, but still kill the weeds.
Cool. And then it's how did it come about? How did this get started? What's the storyline behind?
Chad, that's all you. It's out of your head.
The opportunity to work in industry as well as in academia and do all my university work really kind of opens your eyes to what's out there, what are the needs. I'm from Northwest Iowa originally, so small communities, small farms. The more interaction you have with growers, you hear the exact things you're bringing up today. There's a lot of headwinds. Am I going to make enough money? Commodity prices, are they good? Are they not? The cost to do business, buy fuel, fertilizer, a lot of things confronting them, as well as the farmers in my family to just make a couple of bucks here and there.
Yeah.
So we're constantly, at least I'm always thinking about how can we put together some technology, some science that can directly help a grower or directly help that family, or something from that, sort of bridge environmental side to make things a little better, a little bit more money, a little more stability, because there's plenty that you can't control, when you're in the farming business. So you sort of keep your eyes and ears out and learn about things here and there. And I guess about 5 or 6 years ago is when I first started to put together a series of different natural products and different extracts and things.
Did you start with the concept of being natural, or did you sort of know that you use mint? Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I've got a basket of different extracts and things.
So did you start with the premise that you wanted it to be natural, or did you start with the premise that there were characteristics of that?
Yeah, the idea was sort of twofold. One is it's difficult to go to regulatory agencies. It takes time and money, and to synthesize something new was not something I had a capacity to do. But also understanding that the greatest solution in farming, could be X or Y thing. If it takes 20 years to get to the grower, is it really that good? The sooner you can deploy highly effective tools at a reasonable cost and deploy them globally, the sooner you're actually bringing a solution. Great ideas, we've all had a great idea, but in order to put, the Harpe team together so we can put this in a position where we can rapidly move these products, from a research and development side that we're in right now, deploying them, getting them out there for the guy. I know Kevin mentioned Arkansas. They got some serious weed problems there.
And then
being able to go down there is in a short term, within 9 months to a year, once we make the decision or someone makes the decision to pull the trigger, that's a powerful way to help change somebody's dynamic.
And this may be obvious to everybody else, but the notion that if we use like a small molecule or a chemical, it takes a great deal of time to get through EPA, and people need to move on, and that one of the reasons we're investing a lot in biologics is that you can speed that process up. And then as we especially, and maybe you can drill on this a little bit, when you start thinking about selective pressure, or we see this a lot with Vestron in terms of what we're trying to do with bugs, that what you're trying to get is changing how its mode of operation at the same time. So you're also competing against that the weeds are getting more aggressive, the bugs are getting more aggressive.
Yeah, you look at innovation in the ag input industry. We haven't seen a new mode of action herbicide since Ronald Reagan was president. So there's a giant gap in developing new modes of action. So we look at what we've done here. It's new mode of action chemistry to do just that, to take up the pressure off the chemistries that exist today. So it's not replacing the chemistries necessarily that we have, but it's a start to the future, moving from a synthetic world to a biological world. What Chad was able to develop, these herbicides work as standalone products, work very well, say for organic, can work for regenerative growers, and then certainly in combination with existing chemistries today. So I'm not going to throw out these wonderful tools, but how do we enhance them so we overcome those challenges that they're facing?
And as we think about going forward, so this is the roadmap here is you're ultimately probably going to exit to a major once you get through the certifications and such. So timelines wise, when might this be in market? Yeah,
so our plan has always been from the beginning to divest. We've been working on this for a handful of years. We've really got one to go till we divest, and we're kind of starting that process now. You think about what we're working on, the main compounds live on the EPA's 25B list. That means it's already approved to go into the market today. So you can turn around the all natural versions of the product immediately. So from a divestment, you're looking at a year or so to try to get into the marketplace. So 25, 26.
And then in the practical application of this, it would be done in more of a combination therapy type of approach.
I'll let Chad talk about the need and the science, but yeah, I think we're leaving it wide open in terms of how you do it from a business side. Solo products work just fine. You just need more of them. And then combination products, how do we take something like glyphosate that's used globally, wonderful chemistry, add Harpe to the mix, essentially reset it, not just from the technology side, but also from the IP side. So creating all sorts of value for the industry again.
And so is that all going to be, you think, sold through a single company, or are people going to be mixing this out themselves, or what's the sort of like the agronomists are going to settle that, or what's that sort of in the market? How is it going to sort of work itself out? Is there going to be a competition between and cause people not to move quickly enough, or what do you think it's going to start looking like?
I mean, our plan A is to divest the entire company to one major to bring it to the marketplace. I have all the tools, assets, business components to do that. I think then you're hitting on something, is then how do they choose to go into the marketplace, whether they keep it for themselves and separate, or do they create a licensing model or other ways to bring the technology on a wider scale in different ways. I think I would think it comes out initially from a single company, and then over time probably looks a little bit different as it we worked its way through the marketplace.
Kevin, you got anything to?
I'm just mulling it all. I'm just thinking about it all. I mean, so you're really developing the technology, honing in the technology to the best of your guys' abilities, and then it's going to probably an exit to a nutrient or a whoever it may be, Simplot, Wilbur Ellis, whoever, and then they're going to go direct. They're going to go to market. They're going to have a go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, not thinking the retail distribution side, but probably level up the manufacturing side.
Bayer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Kevin, one challenge we have on the biologic side is, a lot of these majors have a lot of distribution power, which, is scale. And we always think about, when we think about innovation, we think that adoption is the harder part. We can invent. I think when we were at your conference, I was talking about when we put together that missile to take out Saddam Hussein in 1990. Really quickly, did in like 60 days, but the adoption side is hard. And if you've got these really rigid distribution channels where Nutrien's got product that they want to sell, and this is a better product, but I don't want to disrupt my installed base. A big fear we have from an investment standpoint is, can somebody get into the channel? I mean, if a farmer wants to use this stuff, and we have a startup like Organics got this product, but getting that distribution channel opened up is something we fear as investors, is how to really open that up. And we don't have an easy answer.
And that's exactly why we have the business model we have. We have that same fear that how are we going to take them on? How are we going to find the space versus someone who already has that shelf space, if you will. And I think that's also part of the beauty of it is, and Chad can talk about the science, it's chemistry. You don't need a different machine. It works with your sprayer you have today. You don't need to keep it alive. You don't need to keep it cold. It's chemistry. And it works just like, labels look the same. So it works just like a farmer knows. He's just got to mix it and go. Chad?
Yeah, and that's always the great fear, right? Again, you find a great microbe that does something for your crop, and you find out in order for it to work, it has to stay alive.
Yeah.
And we've all had microbiology class maybe in high school or college, but probably not such that we can grow some on the farm. So the goal was always, let's create something that you don't have to stand in one leg in the moonlight for it to work. Create chemistry. Don't force anyone to buy new equipment. Don't change the way that they're practicing their current farming techniques. Just give them something that they can put in the tank, explain a little bit how to use it, but make it user friendly, and then let them go. And at the same time we're doing that, and this started again at the very beginning, is that we were, at least I was very clear in sort of looking ahead, knowing that there's this thing called Blue River that was out on the West Coast that was going to be a new see and spray technology that was exciting. There was the drones that you started to see or you read about that were flying, and I think first crop applications, and for some of them were in Japan 5 or 6 years ago already. So thinking about, there's got to be a couple of ways that we could build a specific formulation for technology that's a few years away and have those things ready for the future while we're already ensuring that what we have now can be put right into the sprayer.
And is it different? What crops are this particular? Is this good for any particular crops or any particular environments, or where do you think first launch is going to be?
Yeah, so it's really crop agnostic from the standpoint of, we like to think about it, we're providing new and natural tools for any acre, hectare garden that you want to use it on. It just can't spray your crops right now because essentially if it's green, it'll get damaged or it'll die. So, it really is, if you're a specialty crop grower or you're just growing row crops in the Midwest, there's an opportunity to use this. The easiest pathway is clear. And it's interesting to think about this first because that's not how companies always think about it. But because of the natural products that they are, the organic market is wide open. Those same products can be used in conventional settings, but organic acres, regenerative ag, again, because we're working with products that already have review and for approval from the EPA that can enter the marketplace, those acres are easy access.
Yeah, and some of your comments earlier, fascinating about being short or long and some different commodity things. Think for a second, if you could grow 5 acres of organic corn and feed those to some organic pigs, what kind of a value creation is that just on your own property and a small piece of land? And I believe it was Cargill and ADM that have put forth quite a bit of money to convert some acres to certified organic to feed animals. There's a lot of things out there right now that being able to control the weeds with an organic tool like we have, both from the soil applied side, pre-emergent as well as post, that can really change the way that someone thinks about how they use their ground and how they could potentially interact within the supply chain in their local area.
Well,
So go ahead, Kevin.
I mean, is it Ombre certified, or is that something you're working on, or is it?
Yeah, it's something we're working on. We're in the middle of filing a series of IP, so can't file with Ombre yet because we don't want to create our own problems with the IP. So, but yeah, easily we're working on that for Ombre.
Yeah, I know a lot of organic people seem to want to. They kind of need that to some degree, and I know it's not cheap to get. And
yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice not to hand weed or burn things or use machines, but really utilize the tools that conventional growers have been using for decades, right?
Yeah, for sure. So no, I think that's very, very good.
And in terms of the value proposition, we're covering this a little bit just in terms of organic, but as you think about it, does it create any new business models or new things that farmers should be thinking about? Like, hey, no, I'm just replacing my current herbicide and it's going to be more effective versus, no, I can now move into other higher value opportunities because I've now got this in my arsenal.
Yeah, and you can think about it multiple ways, and let Chad talk more about this from the science side. But if we think about the weed resistance issues and what that causes in terms of land values, if you're able to control that seed bed, get rid of those resistant weeds that you've been struggling with for years and years now, you're improving what you're farming. You're getting more yield out of it. You're getting more success. You're headed back to where you want to be, and you can do that with the chemistries that you know and trust.
And is the cost in this particular case could be anything materially different?
No, that's I think one of the brilliant things that Chad has been able to do is really work on the formulations, and I'll let him talk about that, to a point where we're in the ballpark with traditional chemistry. Are we going to be cheap and cheery? No, we're high end. This is especially chemistry, given what we're talking about here, being able to overcome these challenges. But it's not not out of the realm of possibility to add it to your management program. You think about it, you're making multiple sprays now because you can't control the weeds. How do we reset, make less applications of those herbicides, go back to where we once were?
And what's next? What do you have to get done before this is available? What are like the roadmap?
It's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Just hardware. Is it it works and you've got to prove it? It works and you got to get it approved. What's the?
I think let me ask a question. I know because there's a lot of listeners that are also entrepreneurs. It seems like a lot of our bigger farms across the U.S. guys and gals are invested in all kinds of different things or have different businesses. What have you guys seen as entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs of the company? What are some obstacles, like Carter's asking, that have maybe popped up or come up that you didn't see really coming?
Well, one from the very beginning was who's in the room. So Chad and I, coming out of industry, having a really good idea, showcasing things that are working. Okay, do we believability of us? That's why we pivot. Fast forward a little bit. We brought in Bill Buckner, the former head of Bayer Crop Science, and the believability factor of what we were working on changed instantly. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, having someone like that in the room, his influence, his credibility, dynamically changed what was possible.
And then getting some of your, we call them brand ambassadors, some of your bigger, the Kip Toms and Harper, and the different people that are bigger farm operators across the U.S. kind of taking a look and looking.
Yeah, Bill called his friends.
Yeah. And there you go, right?
Yeah, I would call the network, and that, and, it's the network that we didn't have, right? We had a really good idea or chatted, developing technologies. I'd say that, and early on, we learned that the hard way because we needed to raise some money, and that was a challenge.
Right.
Did you ever have one of those days where like, no, this is all gonna go down, and then it turned?
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah. So what was the downest down on that roller coaster and the uppest up?
That was probably more from my side.
Yeah.
No, it's, there's nothing quite like, when you try to go put some things together and pitch and you go to talk to someone or a group and you're doing everything you can to explain what you have and why it's relevant for any of the, the patents that we have are filed. And I don't want to say it's like soul crushing, but it's extremely disheartening to have someone completely not understand the science, which is actually in many respects okay, but the business model. There's a lot of people we dealt with in the first stage that simply didn't understand agriculture.
Yeah.
And it's business, but it's a different business. It's not structured quite the same way. And trying to communicate why growers need this. This is a big deal. It will get adopted. It will, that's hard because it feels like, all the work experience and all the things you've done to kind of get to this point to bring something to fruition. The people that are out there in terms of the end use customer don't get it. And so that's, there's challenges to go back, rethink how you communicate, rethink how you structure. Is something wrong with the business model?
Did you have a moment where you just thought it was all going to go downhill and you were just going to blow it?
Ooh,
No?
no, not really. I mean, not in the sense that,
And what was the greatest moment of glee?
I don't know.
There's been several.
Okay.
Exactly.
What I was going to say is, I think if you have an entrepreneurial mind, just like if you're a salesman, you're always kind of a salesman. If you're an entrepreneur, you always kind of have that click in your head. Some things are going to work and some things are not. You just battle and grind and push your way through, and there's other ideas and other people that you can work with to help that entrepreneurship continue to go. And
Sure.
it's just like farming. You're going to do it, and you're going to do it every year. You're going to get hail one year. You're going to get some strange bug one year. This is what you do, and you go do it.
Yeah, I think there was a few big moments of realization of what we had in our hands. The first time we ran trials where it was a Harpe product by itself against glyphosate, and you watched the pigweeds die that glyphosate couldn't kill on the plot next to it. There was a lot of wow right that day. The day the first prototype formulation went out in a drone, and we saw that go across the field, come back in 2 weeks, and weeds were dead. That's pretty cool. And this last just a handful of days ago, when we closed the round and ADM was our biggest investor, that's significant. And that was a big day to celebrate. So there's been a lot of milestones, but to Chad's point, it's been, there's never been a day where we said, we work in the same office, probably too close to each other, but there's never been a moment where we said, hey, we're going to stop. It's been, we believe this, and we're going to keep ticking through. The first formulations cost $1,000 an acre to spray, but they killed weeds, and they were a new mode of action. It's now just, and I say just, but working through the steps to get to the other side of this now fits into the parameters of agriculture, 20 GPA, a kilogram per acre. This is now a viable product, but it took a heck of a lot to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of our entrepreneurs and founders, I think, go through a lot of the same trials and tribulations, without question. I think some of the things I invested in that looked the best on paper, ended up oftentimes being the most disappointing. And some that I thought, some of the things I thought, this probably is never going to make it, and shit, it ended up doing the best. So I think it is definitely the up and down roller coaster rides, like you guys have said, and you just don't know. There's a lot of.
That's why you have to diversify your investments.
Oh, you're right, Carter. And Carter preaches that all the time to myself. I preach it to my kids. I think, if you're going to invest in startups, like I think Andy and some of the other guys, I mean, they invest in almost everyone that comes down the pipe through Carter, just because, like Carter says, you just don't know. I mean, things can twist and turn, government policies, regulation, you just don't know. So yes, I do believe there's a place in a lot of people's portfolio, especially people who are fairly wealthy. I mean, that you got to be diversifying into the startup space, and that's great.
Did anyone have the corner on the board as like, we're gonna have COVID and then Russia's gonna invade Ukraine? I don't know if anyone had that.
No, looking at my bingo card. But at the same time, we worked with our team and put a plan together. We're really proud of the team we have, and sat down with them and mapped out what we're going to go do, and then go do it. And we feel we have a really good plan and see it to fruition. That's helped. It hasn't been, it's been steady as we go, working that plan, adjusting obviously as we need to, but it's been, hey, let's sit around the table and let's develop a really, really good plan, because we've got some really great people in the room.
Let me ask you something, Daniel, Chad. Is there any way producers can get involved with you guys now? Are you looking for people to do test plotting? Are you looking for anything that listeners could be a part of at this time, or just not just yet?
Yeah. I mean, we're always welcome to talk to folks that want to do some field testing with us. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. We're doing trials on a global scale. We're started already. Counter season work is almost done down in Argentina and Brazil, Honduras. We're going to be kicking off in Europe later this year. Bulk of the work is about to start in the U.S. So always welcome to discuss, get grower feedback and thoughts, making sure we're not missing something, because at the end of the day, they're the end use customer. So conversations are always welcome, always helpful. Get thoughts. What are their challenges? Make sure we're thinking about this the right way. That's probably the best help we can get from those folks that do the hardest job on the planet.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, because we've seen in the past with some of the early investments, some products seem to have just worked better on certain soil types, certain regions of the nation, certain, we were getting good feedback in different places when we were doing different trials. So yeah, it's interesting to see it all come in.
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting. It's broad spectrum. It should work on, there's no silver bullet. It's not going to work everywhere and every weed. But what's been put together is going to, really, we believe, make a difference in agriculture.
Yeah, and we just keep hearing more and more talk about the problems with glyphosate. It's just, weeds are becoming intolerant to it. So it's just, we got to find something for sure. So perfect. Carter, any other questions? Or
No, I think it's we're ready to get it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If anybody wants to come buy them early, we don't mind that.
We brought an investment bank on. We're putting the pieces together to go have those conversations. Do not mind, early active bidders. So.
Yeah,
we're still in a world where to bring better technology to market, it takes years, and we're always trying to speed that up. And the next step is probably to get even more farmer engagement, which is something with Kevin that we always try to do, and Kevin's been very helpful in that regard. So if anybody's interested, let's reach out and maybe we can help you speed up.
Cool.
Yeah. You guys seen anything else when you're out traveling about that's interesting on the ag tech side? Anything new that's game changing you guys were looking at?
I did see one at the World Agritech out in California when I was there. I'm going to draw a blank on the name, but it was a small pheromone company, so insects. But they were tapping into not the mating side of things. It was into a different area, and it was just it was pretty neat how they were taking just a different approach than I've seen everybody else take.
Yeah, I can see that for sure coming down. Is that conference worth going to? Do you like that out there, that World Ag Tech conference?
I enjoyed it. It was an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. We didn't make Chad go. He was still working in the labs, still focusing on the R&D side. But good conference, talk to a lot of people. It's probably it's big now, so you've got to work hard to make it worthwhile. It's not as intimate as it once was.
I've never been out to it. Carter, you've gone Couple.
Yeah, I
things?
just went, it for me, it was I didn't go to a single presentation. I just spent my time meeting with people and it was very helpful and the nighttime parties were nice. So it was.
Yeah,
Good.
dinners were good. Wine was free. I will say I did, I didn't go to a lot of the presentations either. It was those sidebar conversations, make sure you're finding and talking to the right people. However, I did go to Chuck Magro's opening session, and I really enjoyed the picture of agriculture he painted, the future vision that he saw for agriculture and his company. So I appreciated that quite a bit.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Carter, maybe till next time. What else we got? Anything, buddy?
I think that's it. And then we got to make sure that you come out to that conference next year.
Oh yeah. I need to get out to that for sure. So, and we do still have the rolling fund still open, correct?
Yeah, rolling fund is open. Probably close around late June. Things are starting to pick up. Eva's been very busy with that.
Okay.
We fiddled a little bit to send out notices, but if you go to iselectfund.com and go to the front page, there's an image there. You can click on it, but we have a bunch of money committed. And I know everybody's out in the field planting, but we would like really this to all be producers and farmers investing. So we can take a total of 250 investors. And so if you're interested in investing in 20 tech startups and ag tech, go to our website.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds good, buddy. So exciting. We'll wrap this thing up and look for the next one. So I'm in New York. I'm in New York next week. You traveling anywhere, Carter?
I am gonna be up at S2G's conference around May 10th, and then I spend some time up in Michigan. But and DC
Taking the boat out.
Maybe take the boat out. I don't know what's gonna happen. I gotta varnish the boat.
Oh shit.
And then I gotta go to DC in June. So I'm not sure I've gotta get inoculated for that.
Chad, Daniel, where are you guys? I know Chad, you said you're in Iowa.
Well, I'm in North Carolina, but
Okay.
yeah, I will be back to the Midwest. We've got 16 locations around the U.S. We have field trials in 8 places in Europe and the UK. They'll try to go on a little tour for a couple of weeks.
Tour.
Daniel,
Daniel, you're
look at
out.
weeds.
Go and look at weeds. Right on, guys. So perfect. Well, that's all we got. Until next time, Carter.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel. Thanks, Chad. Thank you for being on. All right. See you guys.
Cheers.